Hello everyone, happy Friday. I hope you all are doing well. I hope everybody's having a great day. It was a nice, sunny but cold for the south, cold day. Hello Andre. Yeah, so you listen to Now and Then. Yeah, it seemed overly compressed to me, but it's still a fascinating thing. AI, neat thing. So anyway, couple of I'll get to today's topic, weight distribution. But I also want to, since Andre is here, I want to kind of put this down on tape. Hello, Pascal, Toronto. I hope you're doing well. I want to put this down on tape for anybody now or in the future, who watches it. Give yourself a break. I don't mean stop training. I mean, don't kick yourself. If you're training, if you've been training for a couple of years and you're thinking, yeah, but I'm just not, that person's so much better than me, that person's so much faster than me. Oh, look at these little kids all doing a single drill in amazing unison. Give yourself a break. You will never, ever, if you're really concerned with advancing yourself, you will never, ever feel like you're where you're supposed to be. Take this from a person who's probably older than everybody watching this. You will never, ever feel like you're where you're supposed to be. The moment you feel like you are where you're supposed to be, something wrong with the audio, Pascal? Can you hear me? Okay, so Andre, it's fine on your end. All right? Then I'll keep going. If you feel like you are where you are, that you have achieved this penultimate desire of yours, that you're done, you've achieved the thing, then you've stopped growing, you've stopped learning, and you have entered a realm of conceit. Hopefully, that'll never. Hopefully, that will never happen for any of us. That you are constantly seeing that thing that's better, and you're striving to get it. But also give yourself a break. If you've been at it for 2 years and you're still not, oh, come on, 2 years is nothing. You've been at it for 5 years, well, still, come on, that's really nothing, right? You've been at it for 10 years. Hopefully most of us who've been at it for at least 10 years or more recognize the value of that 10 years, but still find stuff to fix, still find stuff to be in awe of. You also have to remember you are doing something that is physical. And not everybody has the same physical attributes. So you will, one of my favorite pieces of prose is the Desiderata. There will always be greater and lesser persons than yourself. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain and bitter. For always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. You may become vain because you're better than so-and-so, and you may become bitter because you're not as good as that guy, and as hard as you try, you can never get as good as that guy, because that guy has some physical attribute that you won't have. When I was a teen, for some reason, we had a local Gamecock hero, Kevin Roach, who is a Gamecock basketball star. He was like 5'8" or something like that, my size. A short man playing a tall man's game. So that made me, I think I'll take up basketball. That was never going to. I am not built appropriately. I do not have those right kinds of reflexes and skills, and I'm a short guy. I was about Kevin Roach's size, but he had something else. He had this amazing ability to jump and stuff like that. So, I mean, you can always find somebody who can do things that you can't do. In thinking of becoming a basketball player, first thing I had to do was look around and go, hey, it was only because of Kevin Roach. Kevin Roach is the only under 6 foot basketball player that I was aware of. Most of them, most basketball players are well over 6 feet, bumping at 7, right? So, give yourself a break. This is the first thing I wanted to say. Now, talking about weight distribution, and there's a couple of factors in this, and some I want to focus on the feet and how we use our feet, and how we distribute our weight. In the various chat rooms, or social media, whatever, there seems to be in Wing Chun, or around Wing Chun, various arguments. One argument is the weight should be 70-30, rear leg, lead leg, 60-40, 90-10, 50-50. Izzo is a 50-50 guy. Sifu Fong is a 70-30 guy. Guruna Santo is a 70-30 kind of guy. Nothing, and I think everybody's right. It depends on what exactly you're talking about. Certainly when you're talking about the fundamental stance or the training stance of Jingma, it's got to be 50-50. When you're talking about fighting, I contend we're always in motion. We're always moving. Fighting is about transferring the weight distribution, and moving that weight. So when is it, especially street level, ready stance? Step back, hands up, Wing Chun position fundamentally, weights on the rear foot, 70-30. Only for that stance, only while in that stance, in that structure. As soon as stuff starts to happen, your weight's moving. So that's one aspect of weight consideration. Another aspect of it is the unique way Wing Chun uses our hips and feet. And for that, let me start. First of all, we'll use this video here. Is that the one I want? This one. And this kind of goes to the discussion on Jing Ma, right? Hold on, folks. All right. This is I got this from Master Wong. Okay. This is his primary entry into the Jingma stance. So this would be a 50-50 weight distribution. But you notice this is a 3-step. This is heel, toe, heel, toes, heel. Heel, toe, heel. Master Wong is Panam. Moyat does the same entry. Okay. That's not what I was taught. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a slightly wider stance. But let's look at another. This is also Master Wong. This is also Master Wong, but now he's using more of the Ip Man style, Ip Man Jui Wan style 2-step. We'll run it again. That's going to be toes, heels. All right. 6 of one, half dozen the other. How you get there isn't a big deal. The 3-step causes a slightly wider stance. Whoops. The 3-step causes a slightly wider stance. but it's still within acceptable limits. Of course, always in Jingma, you're always in 50-50. Yeah, Andre, yes, Ip Man was a short guy. Bruce Lee was a short guy. Of course, they weren't playing tennis, but anyway, basketball. But anyway, Jingma is always a 50-50 stance. But then you're never fighting in Jingma. At best, if you enter into Jingma at all in a fight, it is in transition. It is moving from one stance or structure to another, perhaps from Jutsama to the right, through Jingma to Jutsama on the left, or something of that nature. But getting more to the unique footwork that happens in Wing Chun, that here's something that I've always been fascinated with, because it is not the way I was taught. This, giving credit where credit is due, this is from the Tse Qigong Centre, okay, and this is the standard, what is called shifting movement, where the weight is distributed on the heels. And in a lot of chat rooms, what I have encountered is that they'll latch onto a thing, like they'll latch onto that footwork, and they'll decide that is the only way things are done. What I try to impress upon my students, and the reason I wanted to bring this video up, is yes, this footwork is used, that you shift on the heel, but you shift on the heel at certain times for certain functions. That is not the only way you move or distribute your weight or shift your weight in Wing Chun. This kind of heel, staying on the heel and moving the toes, causes you to flex your hips a certain way. It is for shifting your weight while maintaining on line. And I think that's where the confusion comes in for a lot of people, is that approach allows you to stay on the center line that you have already drawn. It should be interesting to note, you carry your center line with you. Whether you walk over here or walk over there, whether you pivot on your heels, whether you pivot on your toes, whether you do a dance, you carry your center line with you. The center line that we are concerned with is not necessarily just my opponent's center line, but how my center line or my center plane intersects my opponent's center line. And I do not necessarily want my center plane to intersect my opponent on his center plane. In other words, we really don't want to fight nose to nose. So while this shifting on the heel has its function, and there's a perfectly good time for this. You happen to be faced nose to nose, center plane to center plane. They throw a wide punch. You want to do traditional tanda. It would be good to shift the toes so you can put the shoulder in so you can strike their center plane. You can strike their hinge while defending with your tongue. Basic Wing Chun, tanda. Shifting. Another good example might be you really don't want to move, you want to move them. Chum Q as example, you get into a clinch. Now might be the time to shift your weight with the toes, the heels remaining planted, because you want to spin your opponent. So then somebody will move like a boxer, and they'll get up on their toes and they'll move their heels. Like, let me get video of that. Bear with me. Okay, yes. Here. Well, I got Master Wong. We'll go to Master Wong again. Pause that. Oop. Pop. Okay, so here is Master Wong, and I don't know if you guys can see all of that because of the player. Let me just make this small. There you go. Now you guys should be able to see the whole thing. Here you can see that he's shifting on his toes. This is Master Wong. But I also have... Oops. I also have another fairly renowned guy. This is Sifu Alex Richter displaying this idea of shifting on your toes. Which my students, Andre will attest, he hears me talk about that a lot. No, the pic that keeps popping up in the background. Who's asking? Andre? This? No, this is Alex. My child. A young Alex. So anyway, let me kill that and get back to me. So that was Alex Richter moving on the toes. One simple way of thinking of these things, the way I explain this to my students, shifting of the heels is for moving weight, distributing weight. It's good for again, the Tanda situation, your nose to nose, they swing the punch. You really don't want to move, or you're not in a position to evade. So you want to get your shoulder in. You want to use your hip weight in your da, your hit. You want to face the coming strike so that your tan has structural strength. You do not want to put effort into your tan. You just want the structure of the tan to do its job. You want to put effort into the hit. So you sink on the heels and pivot the toes and the hips. But maybe you're nose to nose and your bad guy is throwing a jab. One thing we do in Wing Chun is to avoid or evade. If I pivot on my toes, like we just saw Alex Richter doing, Sifu Alex Richter doing, I get out of the way of the jab, while at the same time putting my weight into a potential strike. Another way I explain it to my students is heel comes in other words, I shift on my heels, turn on my heels to hold position and to shift weight to rotate my opponent, or I point my toes, I pivot on my heel and point my toes in order to evade, to move, to run, which sounds kind of contradictory to what I was saying a moment ago. If I'm shifting on my heels, my body is holding position. If I shift on my toes, my body weight is moving. I'm driving weight in. I can also shift on my heels in order to prepare to evade. One thing that is interesting, I think, when we get into this debate of heels over toes, a lot of Wing Chun people, like I said, they get fixated and they get really stuck in the idea of, I pivot on my heels. I do everything on my heels. Let's look at the human foot. Whoops. Wrong thing, guys. Just a quick reminder. Is suspended primarily over the heel. When you are heel heavy, when you are standing on your heel, when you are pivoting on your heel, it is difficult for you to resist forward pressure. I often tell students, if we were a bird, we would have a talon, a third nail or toe coming off the back of the heel that we could rely on if we received forward pressure. We're not birds. We have nothing beyond our heel. If you are on your heel and you receive forward pressure, you have very little to fall back on. Grapplers rely on this. That's why they trap the ankle so that you can't post a leg back. Boxers avoid the whole problem by being on the toe. Not this much, but this will come into figure in a moment. Our foot is designed this way so that as you walk forward with your weight first initially suspended over the heel, as your weight travels forward, you adjust the angle of the foot so that you can plant something on the ground underneath your forward shifted weight. That's why it's built this way. This is why boxers fight on their toes. They don't exaggerate it this much. This is why Bruce Lee opted for a toe stance, forward toe stance for JKD. That's why fencers use the forward ball of the foot stance. Because your weight, one thing, if you receive forward pressure, you now have something to fall back on. You can fall back on the heel. So when you're thinking of about whether you should be shifting on the heel or shifting on the toe, you want to ask yourself, are you trying to move their weight or are you trying to move your weight? If you are trying to move your weight, whether it's for running or to press in, or if you're trying to evade, you want to shift on the ball of your feet, the ball right behind your toes. They call it the ball. It's kind of a silly thing. Why we do that in English? I mean, you got your toes, and then you have this space right behind the toes. They call that the ball, and here we got this big old heel, which looks more like a ball than anything else. But anyway, that's what we do. We call this the ball. It's also sometimes called the wellspring. If you're trying to move your weight and or change location, you probably want to shift on your toes. If you are trying to hold position but move your opponent's weight, you probably want to shift on your heel. There's a whole host of variations that go on in between. So, that was the big crux of what I wanted to talk about in terms of weight distribution. One, don't get fixed on the idea that it's always 70-30 or always 50-50 or always it's never always anything. In a fight, it's constantly changing. When you throw a punch, if you're throwing a punch for the fences, your weight distribution is going to be 90-10 on 90 on the front, 90% on the front foot. Shouldn't really do that because then you're overcommitting. But you may recognize that this is the punch, this is the strike that will indeed, without question, knock this guy out. You've hit him, he's stunned, he's right there. Boom. You're just going to take his head off? Well, your weight's going to shift from 70-30 to 90-10, right? Anytime you're in motion, even when you're just shifting toes, your weight's shifting from one foot to the next. So it's going from a 70-30 to a 70-30 the other way, and it's passing through 50-50 as it does that. The other thing, don't get fixed on, we only pivot on our heels, we only pivot on our toes. I'm constantly trying to teach students, kind of like the Alan Richter video, like when closing Silam Tao, to keep the toes fixed and pull the heel inward. And a lot of people have a problem is they keep the heel fixed and they push the toe outward. You want to be able to do both, but there's a time for each. Anybody got any questions this week? I'm going to ask that now. And then I'm going to, while I'm waiting to see if a question pops up, I'm going to remind you again about Good Martial is Universal. Beep. Coming up December 1st and 2nd. Topic for this one, this is our third one. The topic is bridging. All martial arts bridge in some way. How they bridge, why they bridge, what they do once a bridge is achieved. That will be the discussion. We will be looking at, as the title implies, the aspects that are kind of universal to all martial arts. We're not trying to single out any one martial art. We do not believe any one martial art is better than any others. It's all in how well you learn it and how it's taught. I also want to take a moment to remind everyone to like the video and share it and comment. Now, I know you guys who've been talking, you're essentially your comments, and those are great. But, help to encourage people to comment if they are viewing it post live stream. Okay? So I don't see any questions popping up at this time. So it being a Friday night, and I know everybody wants to get out and about and do stuff. So we'll leave it at that. I hope you have a great Friday, have a great weekend, and as always, keep on training.